everyone, and welcome to Breaking Boundaries, the podcast where we tackle important social issues shaping our world. I'm Anika, your host for today, and today we will be presenting our research paper on the cultural aspects on child marriages. We've gathered an incredible panel to help us unpack the layers of this issue, including its roots, its impact on young people, and the efforts being made to end it. Joining us are Mr. Floyd Tay, a legal expert, Chan Han, a child psychologist, and last but not least, Samiha, a cultural analyst. Thank you all for being here. Let's start off by talking about childhood and what that pertains to. It usually pertains to innocence and having the freedom to run about life with no responsibilities. However, in many parts of the world, child marriages are justified in the name of culture and traditions. Most adults do not understand the consequences of forcing a child into a very adult life. Child marriage transforms the notion of playing house into a harsh reality where the transition from child to wife happens overnight. This podcast is looking to shed light on the subject at hand. Let's pass it on to Mr. Floyd to explain our methodology.
Thank you for having me. For this research, I use a qualitative approach which focuses on capturing detailed personal experience and stories. I conduct a semi-structured interviews, which are essentially guided conversations that allow participants to express their thought in their own words. This approach is great for exploring people's ideas and perspective in depth. For example, I ask participants about their general views on child marriage and their thoughts on the cultural or philosophical reason behind it. We also discuss whether there are any justification for it, like religion or financial struggles, and how governments might play a role in addressing the issues. Some other questions explore why parents or guardians might choose to marry off their children, like how it impacts the children's development and future, and how gender roles or poverty contribute to the problem. Finally, we touch on how child marriage connects to other human rights issues, like human trafficking or gender-based violence. The insights were incredibly rich. By letting participants share their experience and viewpoint openly, I could understand the deep cultural, social, and economic factor behind child marriage. It became clear that this issue is influenced by a mix of traditions, gender roles, financial challenges, and systemic issues like limited access to education or resources.
That sounds incredibly interesting, the way you gathered data. Samiha, could you tell us what were the results of the interview?
Of course. So we found that child marriage is deeply tied to cultural values and particularly around gender roles and family honor. So in some communities, girls are primarily viewed as the future homemakers and the caretakers. Because of this, there's a strong belief that their main role within the household is to not work and not get education. Another key factor is the idea of family honor. So for some families, marrying the girl early is easier than not, since it is seen as a way to preserve her virginity, which is highly valued in some cultures. And there's a fear that if the girl doesn't marry young and something happens to her, whether it is consensual or non-consensual, it would bring shame to the family. Religion is also another factor that plays a role, but it is important to know that many justifications for child marriage are based on misunderstanding or misinterpretations of religious teachings. Often, these interpretations are shaped by cultural norms rather than actual principles of religion that are taught, and which may emphasize child rights and education. Poverty is also another driver, which plays a very big role. So for families who are living in extreme poverty or in areas of high poverty, marrying off the daughter can reduce financial strain. In some cases, they may receive a dowry or a bride price, which provides the family with immediate relief from the daughter. It might seem like a logical solution, especially when when the family is struggling very much so to provide for the family and for their children. It's also not just about immediate relief, but for some families, they see marriage as a way to decrease the household expenses, like to have fewer mouths to feed, educate, to clothe, and to house. And in some other cases, also, they believe marrying their daughter to a wealthier family might secure her to safety and to even improve the family's situation.
That's such an important point. Change needs to come from within the community, but with the right support systems in place.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, addressing child marriage is about giving families and girls alternatives to like education and economic opportunities and social support, of course, that empowers them and gives them the power back to have the choice outside and not to follow harmful traditions.
It sounds like there are deeply rooted beliefs that contribute to this issue, but they are gradually being challenged. Mr. Chen Han, could you talk about the discussion part of the research? Like, how can the results interpret real life?
Thank you, Anika. From this research, what we know is actually this research actually highlights how child marriage are actually deeply entrenched in cultural, economics, religion, and also occasionally more factors. One factor that is actually keeping the child marriage alive is due to the cultural belief and tradition. In some cases, religion interpretation are used to justify this practice. But what about the children? They really even have to say in this life-changing decision. Economic pressure may also play a major role, especially for the families that are struggling to survive. So choosing a child to marry might be seen to be a quick solution. Financial incentive often outweigh decision to delay the marriage or invest in a girl's education. And here's a harsh reality. Limited education is both a cause and a consequence of a child marriage. Girls are often expected to contribute to the household, reinforce their role as a future wife rather than a student or a professional. But here's the hopeful part. It can be changed. Addressing child marriage means disrupting the harmful tradition while collaborating with committees and also making it a political priority. By focusing on education and providing better opportunity for these women, we can actually help the children to achieve their full potential and break this cycle. This isn't just about ending child marriage. It's about creating a future where every child has the chance to strive. Let's work towards that together.
Thank you, everyone. What I can conclude from this research is that child marriages are deeply entrenched in cultural traditions. Our group studies methodology use qualitative methods to give a nuanced understanding of the lived experiences of those affected by child marriage. This research shows the urgency in the need for a variety of interventions that combine education, economic empowerment, and legal enforcement. Only through collaborative effort will we be able to dismantle the economic and cultural systems that sustain child marriage, ensuring a future where every child is free to realize their full potential.